components: the network, the data center, the wireless. I'll start off. So we have 4 big initiatives within my area. The second data center that we brought online. We brought online our first server in spring of 2013 over there. That's been a couple of years in the making. Right now it's serving as enterprise backup and redundancy. In the future, or in plan, we want to improve redundancy and resiliency of our servers by placing some of them over there. In the future, we want to grow to meet additional needs. Wi-Fi expansion is probably our biggest project we've been working on. It currently covers 11 buildings and 201 classrooms, about 9,100 seats. In the plan, we'll launch an additional 14 buildings. We anticipate the current funding will run out in April of 2014. In the future, we plan to expand it to all UWM buildings. That includes 420 classrooms and about 2,100 seats, 21,000 seats, sorry. A couple interesting facts. In September, we had 4 million logons into that system. That's September alone. Since the start of the year, we had 15 million logons, so it's a growing service. Go ahead.
When you say all UWM buildings, do you mean at every location or just at the Downer campus?
We have a project plan I can share with you. I don't know the actual specifics.
Every building.
Every building. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, I think it's important for our thinking today to know if we're taking into account all locations. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sure. And future means what? Next year, 2015, 2050? What's future?
Good question. It depends on the amount of funding we can get. So obviously, the more funding we can get, the more resources we can buy, and the faster we can build it out. We currently have a proposal of about $2.5 million to continue building it out, and that'll, if we get that funding, it would be complete by the end of 2014. You're welcome. Virtualization is our third project we've been working on. This is where we're actually layering services on top of actual physical hardware, and we get dramatic reductions in cost and price and scalability. Here we're running 375 systems on 20 physical machines. We plan to continue expanding that. We plan to utilize our second data center to build out the redundancy. And then in the future, we want to continue virtualizing other services that we have on campus as well.
When you say 20 machines, is that like a rack slot, or is it a rack?
It's 20 physical hosts. So think of a standard server that's a little beefier than what you'd buy to host one service or one machine.
You're talking about something that fits in multiple rack slots.
For those, it would be, yes. But you
could put 5 or 6 of those in one rack. So we're
yes.
not talking about very many racks.
Yes. Significant reduction in space.
Sorry to throw in
Yep.
one more.
Go ahead.
Some of us are lay people here. When you talk about the services that you're virtualizing, could you give us an example or two just so we can
Yeah,
understand?
so a good example would be PantherLink. So this is a service that we need many, many hosts to serve up to campus. When we virtualize it, we can put many of those hosts on one physical machine, and we can utilize the processor power that that one physical machine provides. To an end user, you get great scalability, really fast speeds, but for us, we start to manage one physical machine. You know, think of hardware space. If a computer goes bad, we know where it's at, and then we layer multiple virtual machines on that. You're welcome. And then storage is our last big initiative. It's 576 terabytes of storage that's centrally managed. We're going to continue managing that and upgrading it and managing performance. So obviously there, when you start throwing all of your disks at something, you need to scale that some way and provide it in a couple different fashions. So in the future, we're actually now working with campus partners to understand how we can transition that service into a more scalable model so it meets the campus demands. Thank you.
One of the things we're going to do around the room is take these separate circles that we have for each of these and put them up as part of the exercises we go through today. So I am going to talk to you about cross-collaboration and efficiencies using enterprise IT tools. We're looking at these collaborative tools to help us through our communication with our processes. Currently, we have Panther Link, our email calendar system. There is UWM TechWiki, which is what the IT professionals on campus are using.
Sorry, we need to speak up.
Okay, sorry. A little better?
Yes.
Okay. We have a UWM TechWiki on campus, which our IT professionals use to communicate their best practices and documentation. And FAA is also implementing their TMA system for their workflow and processes.
What is TMA?
It's a facilities asset management system. It manages both the facilities, the assets, and also the process.
So as we talk about infrastructure, that's why we say that the FAA TMA system is going to be important in communications with the infrastructure pieces on campus. Planned, we're going through an email calendar collaboration services RFP process right now, where we're looking for a hosted service. We have recently acquired an IT service management tool called Sharewell, which is something that is going to be replacing the ticketing system that we use centrally for the help desk. This system is going to be used by multiple IT departments around campus to increase communication with IT incidents. This system also provides, being an ITSM service management tool, problem management, configuration management, all kinds of IT tools to help us to communicate better.
Will it also enable greater tracking of performance metrics?
It will enable greater performance metrics that we'll be able to track, and we'll also be able to cross-collaborate more with communication and be able to escalate. It's going to help us with workflow process with all the IT areas on campus, which could possibly translate later into other areas of campus being able to use workflow. Enabling a wider use of the FAA TMA system. So when we're talking about that, we're seeing how we can really communicate and foster the communications through all aspects of infrastructure on campus.
There's a couple others that we're planning. One is called Insight, which is, right now we have paper and we create PDFs and you want to know what a floor plan looks like, or what's in certain office, you can do that. This would make that sort of interactive electronically, where you not only see the dimensions, but find out who's there, what it's used for, and how many data jacks it may have. That's something. We're also looking at software for fleet management. That would be a sort of not just statusing of what vehicles are in service, but if somebody needs to rent or use a vehicle for a day, you do it online. And then there's some very specialized stuff for our maintenance workers that will be sort of the electronic work management stuff that would come out of TMA. We all need your support.
And then future, we're talking about looking at what services we can utilize through some of our processes with, beginning with, say, purchasing and HR, so that they can have a greater e-workflow process, less paper, more electronic. So that's...
Yep.
All right, so in the research computing world, basically the focus has been for the past few years on a high-performance computing cluster. We've had that for 4 years now. It's reaching end of life is one of the issues there, but the usage has now peaked out to where we're actually having to figure out how to manage and share that resource a little bit more. The model for supporting that, for those of you that aren't aware, departments that wanted to use it need to have a facilitator that really bridges the gap from the technology to actually the researcher and how to use that technology, which is sort of a key model we want to build on. We've had an ed tech supported student cluster, which has allowed some of the grad students, undergraduates to get some experience, and has also hosted some workshops and training classes that provided that expertise. One of the things we find over the past few years that I've been looking at it is how are we supporting research computing on campus? And by and large, the most overwhelming support model is it's individuals self-supported at the researcher level. No surprise there. So that's sort of one of the challenges we got to look at going forward and how we do that. One of the plans, as I mentioned, we're at 4 years on that cluster. How do we sustain that? How do we get to the next level? The current plan is submitting an NSF MRI proposal headed by Dr. Peter Tonelato and some bioinformatics and the Genomics Center as the lead in getting that, but it would be hosted as a shared facility for the campus. The next big issue, and you're going to hear that in a lot of these presentations, is storage, 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 big data, data analytics. How do we deal with that? We're focusing, you'll hear the library talk about the curation and archiving, but what is that actual storage mechanism? You heard Thomas mention that. And how do you process that data? Where's the analytics piece? How do you deal with that creation of data up front? And then finally, one of the big things that I'm interested in is while we have all this self-support going on in a lot of departmental areas, there's a huge community of expertise on this campus. How do we capitalize on that? And the first step is how do we track it? How do we get an inventory of that? So then in the future, let's take that campus expertise. Let's use the success of a facilitated model and build a community of expertise support structure here for research. Build on a portfolio of technology options. That's what do we do locally, what do we host in the cloud, what do you do individually, so we can actually have a portfolio of technology. And then one of the things you'll see in the strategic plannings initiative is we need to broaden this support to be an entire life cycle, whether that's a project, doing consultation and design up front, do some grant support, get something written. And then where do you do with that from a researcher perspective on your entire career here? How do we provide training? How do you do some bridging support between grants? How do you do some PR and presence? How do you elevate that level of your support? So that's where we're at.
I'm going to be joined by Jim Lowry, our head of systems, so we'll tag team here. And I have three things that we chose because technology is embedded into the library these days. And so we're going to, and it really does echo a lot of what David said. So the first one is digital preservation and archiving. And with over 5 million items, a lot of them are unique, and we're the only holder. So we, over the years, have developed significant staff expertise. We've been doing this doing digital preservation for over 10 years. We have staff around this, a department. We have the basic technical infrastructure for building, hosting, presenting digital collections. We have, right now, over 130,000 items online. And we have the local infrastructure and archival needs. We're just beginning to organize and address the standards for those campus e-records. I think most of you know that we have records management responsibility for the campus. We've got all those paper things under control, but it's the born digital items that are at issue. And so in terms of our planning right now, our digital repository needs to migrate to more powerful tools. I mean, we've been using, our platform needs to be upgraded. We need to look at new options for presenting our materials and integrating with other research products. We have more than one digital repository right now, because some of them are authors, UWM authors. And we need we're investigating a more systematic and reliable storage. I can repeat storage also. And management for working in for both the digital masters and the campus e-records. And looking at the future.
Whoa, hey, we know that there are some other platforms out there that are used by other campuses that we probably need to look at some point. Not critical, but it's the natural migration to more powerful platforms. We know that our digital products are being integrated, but increasing integration with actual teaching and research on campus. Then back to storage, since we are, working and we are also archiving, we need that multiple tier thing. And I just want to stress here that, we're all asking kind of for different flavors of the same thing. You know, there's not library storage, there's not research storage. There's policies and there's certain capabilities, but at the end of the day, it's a commodity. And I think we have to keep going back to that, you know, that we're not looking for my department or your department. We're looking for capability. And a lot of it, I think, can be very shared if we take opportunity to look at it. So that's my soapbox on that one.
Okay, we'll take the next one. Okay, data services. And you can name that data research or whatever. Again, this is not something library-centric, but we have been hearing on campus there's a need to have help. Faculty need help. Students need help with their research data. And so we just hired a data services librarian, Kristen Briney. And so she is developing data services, consulting and management, and kind of responding to the emerging needs of research data management and providing guidance to students. She has different tracks for students and for faculty and on data management. And we're offering seminars, also individual consulting on that. And since we're just getting started, so our plans are to work, again, in collaboration with the grad school to integrate the services into grant administration, also working with UITS and working with other groups on campus. We're looking for, to work with groups to help address this need, because it's not something that the library can do themselves. And we're looking at, developing best practices around research management, and, and we're looking for the context. And for the future, we really need to develop a robust shared departmental and campus infrastructure for research data management and curation. So the outputs of the research are retrievable, they're curated, they're reusable, they're available when needed, and also they become part of the scholarly record of the researcher. So we are looking to be part of creating an active collaborative community of researchers and administrators dealing with research data issues. Okay, we'll take the next one. So our final one is support for digital research. And so currently in place, this kind of started out when Phyllis King and I co-chaired the digital futures research part, and we were hearing the needs for collaboration and bringing people together around digital research. So we launched just this fall, a couple months ago, a new digital humanities lab. They're kind of in a temporary space, very basic, but there was such an interest. We also created a digital humanities interest group, and that has staff and technical support. And we've gotten some early adapters, and people engaged, excited about working on related topics to digital humanities. And we're actually right now scoping this out, what is needed in the future. So we've created a collaborative environment. We've got faculty engagement and a whole series of presentations which have been well attended. And in talking about planning and implementation?
Well, this comes down to tools. People out there working on projects, they're seeing open source tools. They need places to try them out, to experiment, et cetera. And the next step is to provide a kind of a sandbox environment where people can come in, we can build expertise, and also let places on campus know that maybe they don't have to all start their own programs again. Kind of a clearinghouse, kind of a collaborative space where we can work on this stuff. Because again, a lot of it is a commodity nature at its most base level. So developing expertise in those applications and sharing.
And into the future, I think a couple of these DH actually could just be research, because we're looking at the Digital Humanities Lab to be part of the bigger vision of creating a research commons which would serve faculty and students doing research and repurpose our existing space, and in response to the growing needs of research data, with all the data that's being required at a space that would bring collaborators together, would have the tools and the support, and be involved with grants, and actually, the whole cycle of research, be involved, provide support. And it would be a flexible infrastructure, and again, this would be a partnership. We're looking to work together on supporting the campus in this type of, moving forward in the future on research.
Thank you.
like to thank the Academy.
Yeah. Cool with the Academy.
If I could have 3 circles, they would all be analytics, analytics, analytics. Our goal in student affairs is to let the analytics provide actionable insight. We have a number of our divisional web pages across the campus that are gathering analytics, and we're finding out that we can provide some actionable insight to make our engagement with students deeper or help not leave so much money on the table. In the month of September in 2012, the bookstore had $640,000 of e-commerce transactions. This past September, $860,000. But we haven't engaged in e-commerce shopping cart, much like Amazon. We're going to move to that in the plan stage. We are also going to help empower Jeff's enrollment management team, admissions and recruitment, to make sure that they have the tangible, fine-grained data needed to go out and drive enrollment to UWM. And then finally, into the future, the campus is actually forming a analytics strategy committee to get together to help us look at the campus visits from a 30,000-foot view so that, again, we can get greater actionable insights and track students and visitors as they traverse our entire web ecosystem and learn where we can make greater engagements. We're also going to take these analytical tools, the best of those analytical tools, and integrate them into our CRM tools in enrollment so that when we send out communications to prospects, we can track those engagements. And again, actionable insights will be our results. Thank you.
Good morning. I was asked to be a little pithy, so I have an example of a few tweets and social media comments that have come up. One of them starts off by saying, "I love being a Panther. Can't wait to be on campus in the fall." That reached about 100,000 people on social media. Another one, unfortunately, read something much different, and that one said, "UWM sucks. They lost my bleeping transcripts again." Sorry to anyone in the room who I may have offended there. But that's just an example of the power of social media reaching hundreds of thousands of eyeballs. And so we are working very hard to influence social media and use social media to harness the power. So what we have going on in media relations right now is we are responding to every single message that comes in and connecting people to very good information and making sure that anything that's said negatively about UWM is being responded to and as much as possible turning it into a positive. And we are also responding to all of the proactive tweets so that people can continue to send this virally. We have a social media strategy, and we on a daily basis are pushing out information to all of our followers and trying to make sure that our YouTube channel is being extremely populated and that we are integrating all of our social media strategy into our print strategy on the marketing mix side. So we are pretty intensively working with students as well as staff people to be present in the virtual world. Sandra?
Yeah, can you just give us a little more information on the YouTube channel, since material that is going out from UWM on YouTube is coming from all over campus, in addition to your office? How are you working with others to make sure the production standards are up to what you would like to see?
Right, so we actually just held a brand day on campus, and there was a session that was entirely dedicated to video and branding and making sure that people on campus are becoming more aware of the fact that there are some standards when you're posting media. And so we had, I think, about 50 people who actually attended that session. And we have some additional plans through brand oversight in terms of how to get the message out that people are aware that they can post to that UWM channel. But
branding's one thing, production standards are another?
Branding is one thing?
One thing, production standards are another.
Well, production standards is a pretty large conversation, so, and I don't think we have time today to address all of it, but there are issues of some people wanting to prefer using the raw, real style data, and then there's other times where it's appropriate to put out something that's much more polished and looking like a university produced message. So those are all great dialogues that I think we need to continue having. In terms of our planning, we are working right now on a very exciting social media campaign that we will be rolling out in the beginning of the year, and that campaign will be harnessing all of the people who are our best ambassadors. So we know most of you are on some social media channels, our alumni are on channels, our faculty, our students, our staff are on channels, and so we are in the process of developing a tool that is going to gather content and allow you to easily link and click and push out and share information. So stay tuned for more information on that. And another exciting thing that we're working on is we are in the process of developing a web and marketing dashboard that is collecting the data that we need at a bird's eye view level so that we can share that with leaders on campus who need to see exactly what's happening in the market with different campaigns, as well as social media and key web pages and other marketing mixes that we're using out on the web. And then in the future, you know, the two biggest things that we're doing is constantly evolving. It's a little hard to predict what's coming. So, you know, we have our eye on that ball and are working to incorporate new mediums, even things like Snapchat, which are growing in popularity. And then content management strategy. We have, you know, more and more and more people are producing content on behalf of UWM for UWM, and so we're trying to harness and package all of that good content to use it to our advantage and, again, deal with, unfortunately, the negative comments that exist out there. We don't like it that our #1 UWM YouTube video that exists out there with over 500,000 views is a classroom fight happening with students, and that's something that students posted, and it's out there and it's forever, and we have to deal with that. But we have a couple videographers, and we are encouraging and trying to embrace the fact that, you know, the more we can produce on the positive side and put it out there, the better off we'll be.
Laura, there's just one other aspect. It's a narrow one, but it's an important one about social media. I think that's going to be, if it's not already, our primary way of communicating and finding out about incidents, power outages, emergencies, and things like that, because, you know, nobody checks their webmail anymore.
Right, it's a great point. Actually, the Safe Alert system on campus is already plugged into social media, so if there's an alert that needs to go out, it also goes out on the Twitter sphere right away. And yeah, continually looking for which messages are appropriate to send out regular email versus which ones need to go out using Twitter. And that Twitter is mainly the channel for news and information that we use. Good question.
Yeah, but that comment was about analytics driven out of social media. It's us getting information from social media.
Oh, it's both ways.
It does work both ways.
Yeah.
We can communicate, and I think we have mechanisms. I think Laura's right. We have good mechanisms there. I think we're short on the analytics, but frankly, this is the leading edge of technology. So.
When we had a power outage on the east side of campus, we knew what buildings were affected before we could even get people out there to look, because the students, or the staff, faculty who, you know, they post something and say, hey, power's out at Klachi, power's out at Saban.
Right, and we're monitoring social media and using it as an information tool on crises that regularly then float up to Tom and the cabinet for discussions. It's constant. So while messages are being drafted the traditional way, we've also got reporting that's happening on social media by students, and we've been factoring that in and how to make sure that we're very present and on the front edge of that, so that it never looks like UWM is not responsive or not engaged on social media. Okay, Mark?
Hi, everybody. So through June 2012, ending in May 2013, a campus working group took a look at web content management services and developed some recommendations to improve them. One of the core recommendations was to implement an alternative to the CommonsBot CMS, and WordPress, open source web publishing and blogging platform, was a selected candidate. So starting in May, we've been implementing WordPress and are designing it as basically a web platform for hosting UWM.edu web content. In October, early October, we entered into what we call an alpha phase. We're doing a 3-phase rollout. The alpha was centered around working with 10 other campus units to define the functionality that will best meet our requirements for WordPress. In particular, curating a list of WordPress plugins, these components that can add functionality that can be available for all of campus, and setting that up in a way that can be managed over the course of years. We're going to be entering into a beta phase for WordPress. In the next few days, actually, we'll be inviting another, a total of another 20 units in to continue on the functionality front and also expand into service support with a focus on learning resources, service management, upgrade, change management basically, and really developing a sustainable service that we can efficiently support for campus. First quarter 2014, and actually we're narrowed it down to the first half of February at this point, we'll be going into what we're calling general availability, where essentially WordPress will go live for use in hosting and managing campus web content as an alternative to CommonSpot. And at that point, all the work, all the websites that have been developed through the alpha and the beta phase will be able to go live as part of WordPress being live to campus. Risks that we're managing right now, I think one of the bigger challenges, potentially an opportunity if we can pull it off, is just getting individuals to take advantage of the immense amount of resources that are available and exist for WordPress, and encouraging them to look beyond just home-developed classroom training to learn WordPress, although we definitely will make resources available for those parts of WordPress that are real specific to us, our campus. Other risks are setting up the plugin catalog in WordPress so we can upgrade it and manage it efficiently over the years as we need to upgrade on a regular basis, with a goal towards having upgrades be frequent and real low impact and real low on resources required to do them. And I guess two others, maybe a little less so, is just setting it up so that if people choose to use external providers to develop their WordPress sites, as sometimes they do, that they can, with agreed upon and not huge effort, bring it on campus to be hosted. And then lastly, just as with anything, expectations, getting people to understand that the WordPress is great, it isn't going to be a solution for anything that's going to be on the internet, and educating people on that. Some findings thus far, it's really a quality piece of software. We've really been impressed with the minimal amount of defects in both this core software and the plugins. It's really efficient too. We've done a series of tests, on the average 6 times as efficient to perform any one task. So if you're looking at a multi-hundred-hour website redevelopment project, or just campus as a whole, literally tens of thousands of hours that all the distributed units use to manage their content, I think that's really going to add up to the university and let people focus on making better quality content, and also giving them more time to go do the other things that are part of their daily activities. And that's it. Thank you.
So you may have heard about this mobile thing that everyone's talking about. I'll give you a brief update on what UWM is doing with mobile. About 1.5 years ago, we launched the campus's first native mobile app, meaning that this is an app that runs on iOS and Android devices. We've also are in the process, or have launched, a mobile-friendly web identity theme. For those of you not familiar with the web identity, it's an initiative that we're in the process of working through that's redesigning pretty much every campus unit web page to be a little bit more consistent. Those new designs, those new themes are what we call responsive, meaning that when you look at those web pages from any sort of mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a phone, the page automatically sort of reformats itself to fit the width of that device. We've also are in the process, or we have launched what we call UWM App Brewery. If you're not familiar with that, that's through a great partnership with the School of Information Studies. We are hiring students to take what they're learning in the classroom centered around mobile apps and apply it to real-world projects. We're working with researchers here at UWM, as well as our partners at the medical college. We're working with nonprofits. We're working with startup entrepreneurs and local government to build mobile apps so that the students get a chance to apply what they're learning in the classroom. That has also provided us with resources to be able to grow our mobile initiatives here on campus. So moving ahead, what we have planned, we're going to be in the process of reformatting the UWM homepage to be responsive. John Mills is leading a team of people around campus to look at what that means, the homepage and all the top-level pages becoming more mobile-friendly. We're going to be releasing very shortly a new update to UWM's mobile app. It's going to have a new user interface, and we'll include some new features, including student checklists from PAWS. Students have things that get put into their checklists, reminders, things that they have to do. We wanted to tie this into the mobile app so that we could push notifications to their phone, and this will work well for prospects as well, letting them know that they have to fill out an application or they owe us money or whatever it might be. And then going forward in the future, we want to explore additional PAWS functionality within the mobile app, whether that's using delivered tools from PeopleSoft or tying into some of the data feeds that they have available to us so we can build our own. And we're going to continue to expand the app brewery. We've just hired 6 more students, bringing us up to 10 total, and we'd like to double that over the next year or so. So, thanks.
Got just several different topics that are relevant to classroom technology. I imagine many of you have encountered some of them. This initiative really relates a lot to what was talked about last time at the space meeting with some of the state of the classrooms, where things are. We have lots of rooms with chalkboards and overheads and that sort of thing. So this is a plan to sort of rectify that situation. We have a lot of rooms that are at the level 1 standard for the university, which is really a chalkboard overhead and no ability to even plug in a laptop or teach with it, modern technology. So the hope right now is to start with this 0 level that we have of all of these rooms and do a pretty aggressive initiative to do a simple installation of technology that's highly supportable and is easy to use. As you kind of saw at the beginning, there was a little glitch with getting things going. We need to make sure everything's built in a way that the instructor can walk in and just use what they're doing. If that goes smoothly, then the future of that would be to finish up as many of those rooms as possible over maybe the next 1 to 2 years. The 10 EMS rooms is actually an initiative that's been put together by the math department. I'm not sure where that actually stands at the moment, but that's an effort to revamp some of the rooms in EMS to make them a little more friendly for accelerated low-level math programs. But that's still sort of in the works. So probably go slide 2. This is sort of tied into the same concept. The existing rooms that we have right now, anything that's been done in the last year or 2 is really at a high-level standard. We have digital inputs. You can walk in with your laptop with an HDMI cable, and you're ready to go. About 80 of our classrooms don't have that capability. They're built out in such a way that they're highly functional, but they're not really prepared for the analog sunset. Over the next couple of years, it's going to become more and more difficult to support legacy devices. And that includes, laptops with a VGA cable, or, we have still lots of VHS users and things like that. So we still have that to contend with. The planned area right now, really the one room I have on the plate that's of emergency need. I think, John, you're probably aware of this. We had hoped to do this one over the summer, but it didn't quite make the list. That's a really rough lecture hall right now. And then move on to some of the rooms that are in better shape but need more help. But it will be a relatively expensive project, just depending upon the state of the room and how old it is and what we can retrofit. And I guess the last thing we got here, this is an upcoming project. Imagine many of you are aware of the NWQB active learning classroom projects that are coming up. Been working with several other members of campus. We're working on an initiative to do some training in these rooms to figure out how classroom services and the LTC can work together to provide good support for these newer teaching environments. The active learning space is quite a bit different than your traditional front of room teaching scenario. So we really need some direction from people who understand the pedagogy so we can help to build that technology correctly and make it usable for people. And in the future, I think that there is an effort on the campus to really include that in most classroom design. Maybe not all, but I think there will be a lot of spaces like that. So if we can work together to make that work well, it would be beneficial. And I think that actually ties right into Tanya.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Sure.
can you talk a little bit about any plans to support student devices and kind of a strategic direction?
So like the BYOD sort of thing. Yes, we. That's actually part of the digital upgrade. That makes things a little bit simpler. I mean, when you're coming in with any device, you can just plug and play. That works really well. And I imagine you're probably leaning towards the like wireless connectivity sorts of things. Yeah, tablets and bringing that kind of thing in is part of the active learning spaces. And really in any space. We're slowly testing the waters, and with the sort of the permission of network operations and what we can do and what's acceptable for allowing things like maybe Apple TV or some of the other devices that are out there. We're generally, Crestron is our control systems. They have a pretty good solution to that that seems to be network friendly. We're really kind of easing our way into that, but that's definitely on the way. So, yeah.
And just to let everyone know, there's several involved in sort of these exploration of active learning classrooms. So Classroom Support, the Learning Technology Center, CIPD, I know School of Education. The Learning Technology Center has received a grant from Steelcase, and so we have what's called an innovation hub, where we're actually exploring how pedagogy can be facilitated based on the active learning furniture in the room. And one of the things that we're looking at is how team-based learning with mobile projects and or mobile devices and these sorts of things, are going to fit into the larger picture of enhancing student learning or array of student outcomes. And so there's sort of a partnership through a lot of units that we're hoping to come out with some recommendations. One of the things that came up in the Northwest Quadrant planning, we were trying to determine what these active learning spaces should look like and what should be in them. It was very interesting in that we didn't have a lot of research guiding our practices. And in the field, generally, in higher education, there's not a lot out there. So we're very lucky that School of Education got a grant, that we've gotten a grant, and they're able to partner with Classroom Support Services to make sure that we're better understanding how we're using our resources in the future, and we're not letting necessarily the architect firms that we contract with drive our classrooms or our pedagogy. That might not be even what the teachers want or need. And we know from the digital futures that there's lots of needs for our classrooms, and obviously from what Kevin was just saying. So a little bit more about what's going on in teaching and learning, not necessarily just the Learning Technology Center. One of the strategic goals we were talking about, it was how do we use technology to enhance teaching and learning for student outcomes, which is a pretty basic one. Obviously, the LTC and CIPDs and other have offered faculty development programs and workshops. At the LTC specifically, usually it's for blended and online or use of technology to facilitate teaching and learning. One of the new things we have coming as a member of the Learn at UW Executive Committee is that we've negotiated with Desire to Learn to have our data warehouse built, which we've been waiting for 10 years, to have our data warehouse built and have access to the reporting tool and learner analytics. D2L Insights is the pilot. So that is underway right now. Because of limited Learn at UW resources, we were supposed to have access to this on June 1st. We're still waiting for access to that. And so we're really looking to better understand the behaviors of students in these classes in order to identify effective practices for teaching and learning in online and potentially blended classes. Obviously it favors online because more of the actions and learning processes are taking place with a digital footprint. So the future of that is, as of right now, we don't have, like many of you have talked about, the future really depends on resources. Everyone's sort of like, and if we have resources or when we get resources, that will determine our future. We do have a strategic plan that we've been working on at the LTC about how we can harness the power of the data in order to guide and improve our faculty development programs. But we're definitely looking for additional resources and collaborations with other on campus to help guide that. Something else that we're working on We do a faculty survey to better understand the needs of the faculty. The faculty had reported last year 2 things they were most interested in was e-text and was open education resources. We are piloting an application that's called Ginkgo Tree that is integrated with Desire to Learn that allows instructors to curate and aggregate content from open education resources and or from copyrighted. It also allows you to curate rich text, video, images, PowerPoints, not just text and websites and that sort of thing. It allows you to interact with the text and your students, so you can annotate, highlight, comment. There's also an instant discussion tool, and it packages it in a way that it's almost like a digital book. You watch a video, you turn a page, you read something, you turn a page. On the right, you can have an immediate reaction to that discussion. There is a new announcement since I created this. Ginkgo Tree has partnered with NBC Videos. UWM, being the first pilot of this project, will be allowed free access to the entire NBC Learn video library for us as social scientists. That's super exciting. For the spring semester, they also have now partnered with McGraw-Hill. So all McGraw-Hill texts would be offered at least a 25% discount, if not more. They are on the border of finalizing negotiations with some of the other top publishers as well. So in the spring semester, we'll be continuing our pilot as we normally do. We'll be looking for additional faculty to participate in that pilot. We have already developed the instrumentation for the data collection from the students and from the instructors for the fall pilot. We'll do another data collection at the end of the spring pilot. And then in the summer, we'll decide based on the data whether we'll continue to diffuse and promote this on campus, whether it could be self-supported and driven by instructors, or what are the needs there. Finally, one of the things that's come out of a new initiative is that we have something called the Educational Effectiveness or Emerging Educational Initiatives Group that Phyllis King is leading, and there is a large group of representation from across the campus to help identify some of those things that are going on, the trends in higher ed that we should be paying attention to and thinking about how it's going to impact UWM, develop strategy around those things if we see fit. One of the things that we are discussing right now is open access courses, which is influenced greatly by the MOOC craze, the massively open online courses. So we're looking at ways that we could use open access courses to help meet some of our needs, including enhancing foundational knowledge of graduate students, orienting and increasing enrollments for graduate students, and excelling the brand of excellence around research here at UWM. And so there's been some initial meetings to develop some ideas around this, some vision, a meeting with the deans to discuss their interest, and as for the LTC and others, and Laura will talk about transitioning to innovations, is we really need to consider having an infrastructure, resources, staff, and so forth around managing these innovation projects, researching these innovation projects, and providing instructional stipends to participate in some of these things. And so, again, the future is very unknown for a lot of these emergent educational initiatives until we have an infrastructure to support them that doesn't rob from other initiatives.
Hi. So experimentation and innovation, I feel that every one of these bubbles, these circles, the future area, the planning and the future areas did indicate a ferment of experimentation and innovation, and of the obvious theme of analytics running across everything, indicating, I think, a very healthy commitment to understanding what the consequences are of all of this activity, that we don't just do it with no result. With respect to UWM Online, we have a lot of activity going on, 700 plus courses a year, almost 10,000 students in either blended or online courses, 6% or 1669 fully online. We have a significant national presence with UPace. We've won 2 national awards and $3 million in grants. We just received an evaluator report from SRI related to the Gates Foundation support. We were really top in the country among all the EDUCAUSE Next Generation Learning Challenges in terms of impact for low-income students, effect size. We definitely will be expanding grant activity related to UPace. But experimentation and innovation has provided a great platform for growth, and my next bubble will be about the Flex, but I did want to mention here that a lot of great work on campus, Jacques' work on Afrikaans in the open format is groundbreaking. Simone Conceição on physical presence. Tanya has written a textbook on use of social media in education. So we have a really strong base going back 10 plus years. The LTC has a historical reputation for research on blended. We have 29 online and blended online degrees and programs right now. We are offering new degrees to meet expanded markets. There's a partnership with Student Affairs that's a digital future initiative, the one-stop student services. We are looking to enhance international recruiting, identification of corporate partnerships. That's been hugely effective for nursing. They are adding a partnership with United Healthcare that will expand, bring about 40 to 50 online students for a postmaster's certificate, and possibly more in the pipeline. We have a great partnership with UWM Libraries, again, I think a national leader in providing support for distance ed, and e-workflow solutions. That's been another theme today, and we're looking to embed those in the one-stop, but FAA is doing some excellent work on investigating ways that we could achieve, I think, pretty massive efficiencies with respect to our current practices, better interactive form design, really rooted in analytics and usability. In the future, the academic planning process will allow us to identify more about mode of delivery. In the first phase of this, there were at least 12 online programs identified for the future, and including some very unique to market programs like applied gerontology, LGBT studies, Latin American and Caribbean studies. Should also mention some other programs in the pipeline: participatory media and social change certificate, a graduate certificate in enterprise resource planning, curriculum and instruction masters with an urban social studies emphasis. So I think we have a very unique program array. We will be doing more to incorporate what we learn from learning analytics. And onto the Flex option, we have programs in development, applications. We opened the FlexFit assessment this past Monday. Next Monday, admissions formally starts. January 2, students start matriculating into the programs. Actually, we're launching January through March at this point. We have one program that's launching in March. The future, we will be looking to scale to a national and global audience. There'll be a master's in nursing. I think Health Sciences is interested in offering more of its health program, degree completion programs in that mode. And there's been flourishing interest in other modes of self-paced, maybe not in the Flex format per se, but within the traditional semester, and administrative leadership, psychology, the UPACE offerings are indications in that regard. Flex is attracting very focused, heightened national attention. Hannes has been at several national meetings lately where it has been a subject of conversation. And the UW system received a $1.2 million grant from the Lumina Foundation to develop toolkits for other public institutions looking to expand in this direction. So competency-based education is really kind of a macro trend across higher education right now, and we are a leader in that experimentation and innovation. And the faculty, but also all of the operation, the creative thinking going on in financial aid, in the registrar's office, in the bursar's office, with respect to how to change over to a completely new mode of instruction and administrative infrastructure has been tremendously rewarding, and I think enhances, one of the goals of Digital Future was to enhance our capacity to adapt to a rapidly changing world in higher education. And I would make the argument that Flex has sort of increased our capacity to adapt to change.